Okay, so hi everyone, I'm back. If you haven't looked, I did a community post of a picture. It, sorry, it was actually a memory from 6 years ago, I think it was. And so let me start over. So I woke up this morning after having a dream, and in the dream, I was in a car, and there were these individuals in the car with me, and they weren't necessarily very friendly. And my husband was one of the men in the car, and he told me, "You need to get out now." And so I jumped out, and then I woke up. So I took it to mean that because of the situations that were happening at work, I needed to leave, and I needed to leave now, because the things that are coming are judgments against these individuals who were, you know, going against God. Because God will talk to them and telling them, "You're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. You need to repent, you need to come back to me." He'll give them dreams, visions. He'll give them words through the people that are around them. And these individuals did not listen. Okay, so I woke up and I laid there in bed for a little bit, and I thought, "Father, do you want me to get up, or do you want me to stay? Go back to sleep." And so I think I stayed in bed for like 10, 15 minutes, and then he goes, "Okay, time to get up." I'm like, "Okay." So I got up, made my bed, opened the curtain, cleaned up after my dog, and I made my coffee. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Anyway, and so God led me to clean my space. He's like, "Prepare, because I want you to be ready to work." And so as I was cleaning, I was thinking about how all of a sudden God gave me the unction to start cleaning and start packing and start doing all these other things. And so God started to minister to me, and he goes, "What happened this whole week?" And I said, "Well, you let me rest. You gave me the opportunity to just, rejuvenate, regenerate my strength, my, granted, all I've been doing is studying and reading my Bible, and I sit here, sometimes for an hour or two, just talking or just meditating on his word, meditating on the things that he's shown me, listening for what he has next for me, because he's giving me instruction. Like every day there's something I need to be understanding, or under the the work that he has me doing. And so throughout this journey, God has only had me talk about my experiences, okay? My personal experiences, like what I'm going through as I'm going through this walk. Because that was one of the things that I talked to God about, was like, "Father, there's not really anyone like showing what the process looks like when you're going through these different stages that you're taking us through." And he goes, "You're right." That's not what I meant. So he goes, "Get online." And I started recording, but I wasn't posting. And then all of a sudden God said, through his prophets, God said, "You need to post. You need to start sharing your experiences with people, and show what it looks like as you're going through these different levels of foundational building in your life. And I was like, okay. So I became obedient and I started sharing. And so I don't hold on to words. If God says get on video and share your because I'm sharing personal things. I'm prophesying, but I'm not prophesying the way that the current or the prophet, the people who are in the position of being prophets, they do prophesy because God gives them visions and things like that. But for me, it's my personal experience that I'm sharing. But in that personal experience is prophecy about the future. I talk about the things that God has coming for me. And so I had no idea I was going to go down this route. Okay. So the things that I have to say aren't getting any traction. Like, I'm not getting views like everyone else because I'm not giving something that someone can hold on to and be like, "Ooh, this is going to be for me." Who wants to be living in their car? Who wants to be homeless? Who wants to be carless? Who wants to be jobless? Nobody wants that. They all want the blessings. So when they see my videos, they're like, "Oh no, I'm not going to listen to her." They'll listen to me, but they're like, they don't hold on to it because they're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to align myself to that. I don't want to live on the streets. I want to live in a cushiony life. And it's like, okay, well, in order for you to have a cushiony life in God, you're going to have to go through this. We all do. It's a, because Jesus said, if you remember the scripture where the rich man comes up to Jesus and he says, teacher, teacher, I've been following you. I've been doing everything. I've been helping the poor. I've been, doing this, doing that, and here and there. And he goes, what else do I need to do to be like you? He says, you need to give away your money. And the man got so sad because that is not what he expected Jesus to say. He's like, you have to give up your money and you have to come follow me in my path because that's the only way to get to God. And the man was like, that's the one thing I can't do. I like my cushion. I like my lifestyle. I like having servants. I like having my cars and this and my camels and, my jewelry and all that stuff. But that's not God. So when these individuals hear my words, they don't grab onto it because they can't see and they can't understand the walk. Children of God understand the walk because we've been through it. We're just beginning it, or we're in the middle of it, or we're at the end of it, or we've already gotten to the place that God is saying, okay, now you're going to come into union. And so these people, because they hear the words the way I speak them, they don't attach themselves to me, which I'm okay with. I'm like, Father, you bring who you decide is ready to hear the words, to hear the encouragement, to hear the blessings that you have through the words that I speak. And so I don't feel bad when I've only got 11 subscribers. Hey, shh, shh, hey. He doesn't like it when she speaks. And so I realized that there is nothing that I'm going through that isn't going to help someone else. And that in and of itself is a blessing to me. Because I understand that my life testimony, the things that I'm going through, the lifestyle that God is changing me for, when people see it on the other side, they're going to be like, she got there so fast. Like, first she was in her car, now she's in a motel, now she's in her home, now she's with her husband. How did she do that? Like, how? Trust me, the path to get to where I'm going is not for the faint of heart, for sure. So I'm thinking about this, like, why God all of a sudden has changed the way I'm talking, the way I'm video recording. And so he was asking me, he goes, because he brings back like different prophets that I've watched and I've been members of for the last, 3-4 years. And Ariel Sparks is a young lady who, from the beginning, when I was introduced to her by God, I felt a kinship. Like I felt, like, wow, she's been through some of the worst things in such a short period of time. And then I started to think about my life, and I'm like, okay, I've been through some things. And so God used her because when she was starting out, she was very soft and she was very endearing, trying to explain, trying to help God's children get to that next level. He had other prophets, but because I was so raw with my emotions, so like pretend like my outer skin had been peeled away, that's how I felt. Because I had just left a 23-year marriage that almost destroyed me, and then spent 40 years being belittled and begrudged and hated on by the woman and her children, who I thought were my siblings and were my mom. And so I was raw, and I needed not a kid glove, but I needed tenderness. I needed to build my outer skin again, because I was so distraught. I thought I was the worst thing ever. Like, I thought it was my fault. I thought I was the cause. And I thought, okay, by removing myself away from these people, they're going to have wonderful lives. They're going to live happier and better than they ever lived with me near them. And that was my mentality. Like, I did not think that I was a blessing to anyone, let alone a blessing to myself. I thought, God, just take me out of this world because I don't belong here. Like, just throw me to the pit, throw me to the fire. Well, he did, and I didn't get burned. And I'm like, so slowly he started building me, and the more time that has passed, the stronger I've gotten, the thicker my skin. But God keeps reminding me, keep your heart soft. Don't allow your heart to be hardened by what you're experiencing. And so this morning, that's where my head was. And I'm just like, what in the world are we doing now? And I'm like, Father, why did you have me pack? Why did you? And so there was something that Ariel Sparks said in 2022 where, and God is taking me there right now, where she said that I needed to create a routine. And here it is. So, on 7/21/2022, God had me write down how my life would look if I was married. And he had me rewrite it recently. And so, yesterday and today, God says, okay, I'm about to put you into your marriage. What are you going to do? And so he released me. He said, okay, go ahead and start cleaning. Go ahead and start packing. Go ahead and start doing the things that you need to do. I could have said, yeah, no, can I just sit here with you? Since you're releasing me, I'm just going to, relax and kind of take my time. No, I got up. I hadn't eaten. Okay. I didn't eat until after I was done to a certain point. And then God said, you need to eat. You're starting to get shaky, and you're starting to get, the hunger pains in my tummy. And so what happened was God allowed me. He gave me a moment to choose for myself what I wanted to do. I could have said, you know what, I'll start cleaning after I eat, after I satisfy myself. But I said, no, you want me to clean? I'm going to clean right now. And so I started. And I started putting things here and putting things there. And so that inadvertently was giving God my yes. And he said, okay, you're not going to be lazy. You're not going to be stuck in your ways. You're not going to look at your husband and go, you want me to do what? You want me to feed you? I've done laundry. I've done this. I've done that. Why would I want to, because that's some of the headspace that women are in today is, why do I need to feed you? You're a grown-ass man. Why can't you do it for yourself? I have all these things. Just because I don't have a job, just because I don't go out into the workforce, I'm not your maid. I'm not your mother. I'm blah, 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 blah. This is the way women talk. And God wanted to ensure that I did not have that heart, that mentality. Now, the reason I say this is because there was a point in time in my marriage, my first marriage, where I did have that mentality. But it wasn't the way you think. So, I had a small house, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, upstairs and a downstairs. It was a 1,300 square foot house. Each one of my children had their own bedroom. No, it was a 3-bedroom house. My boys had to share a room. We had a nice sized backyard. We had a trampoline. We had things. We lived a good life. We didn't need more. I was happy with it. But I had a job. I worked 45, 50 hours a week so I could bring home a paycheck so that we could live in this house. I was responsible for the cleaning. I was responsible for the laundry. I was responsible for taking care of the kids. I was responsible. Like, my responsibilities, aside of having a job, a full-time job, a full plus time job, was being a mom, being a wife, being a caretaker, being a supporter, So I was giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. But I wasn't getting anything in return. Instead, I was hearing, is this what we're eating? I don't like tomatoes. I don't like this. I don't like that. Oh, okay, well, what do you want? I want macaroni and cheese. I'm like, okay. So I'd go to the store and I'd buy the boxes of macaroni and cheese. I'd bring it home because I didn't know how to make macaroni and cheese. I grew up with making real meals, from scratch, like chicken and steak and these things. I never had macaroni and cheese, so I didn't know how to make the cheese for the macaroni. I didn't know that. Not that I couldn't have learned, but he wanted it right then, so I threw away all the food because nobody ate it. Of course, he's telling me he doesn't like it. He doesn't want onions. He doesn't want this. He doesn't want that. So I had to throw it all away because the kids wouldn't eat it. I'm like, if Daddy doesn't like it, I don't like it. And so they started to chip away at my wanting to take care of them. And so the longer that went, the less I wanted to do. And so I began to shut down. And there's a reason for all of this. So he began to chip away at me, chip away at me, chip away at me, chip away at me. First it was my cooking. Then it was the way I dressed. Then it was the amount of makeup I wore. Then it was my friends. Then it was my activities outside of the home, because I had things that I liked doing. I liked going hiking. I liked going out and, hanging out with my friends. They were all family. I didn't have external friends. It was my sister-in-law, my sister. We'd go out to a restaurant. We'd hang out. And then that became an issue. And then I started playing softball. That became an issue. Then he didn't want to support me anymore. He goes, you're playing way too much. He goes, I don't need to be at every single game. I don't need to be there to support you. He goes, if you want to play, go for it. Get out of here. I don't care. And I just, the more the time went on, the more I was like, I support you. And then he would turn it on me. And he'd say, you never support me. You're never behind me. And I'm like, in what way? Like, I don't understand. And he goes, you don't cook anymore. But you don't like what I cook. He goes, you don't take care of yourself. You don't like the way I dress. I don't understand. What do you want from me? Like, when I was doing all these things, you belittled me. You told me that you didn't care for the things that I was doing. And now that I'm not doing those things, now you're upset because I'm not doing the things that I was doing before. And that was my life. A constant cycle of being put down, regardless of what I did, regardless of how I did it. And so now that God's about to bring me into my marriage, my godly marriage, he goes, I want to know how you truly feel about this. I could have sat here and been like, I'm not going to clean. That's a thing for tomorrow. Like, no. I like taking care of myself. I like, being the princess mindset. I'm better. I don't need to do any of this kind of thing. And so I started cleaning, started packing. And then today, when God was like, what? Go ahead and get things together. I'm like, okay. And then he goes, are you ready to celebrate? And I was like, celebrate what? Like, the end of the year. Like, oh yeah, that's right. the end of the Hebrew calendar year. And so today is the last day of Adar. Okay? The last day of March forward. And so God had me write it down. He goes, okay, today's the last day of Adar. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no, it's not, because there's 2 more days. And God goes, check the calendar. And I was like, oh, that's right. The 29th is the last day. The 30th and 31st, those are the Gregorian calendar. Those aren't the Hebrew calendar. So tomorrow is the first day of Nisan. And so then God led me to look up the meaning of the date, 329. Okay. Now, this is where I go down the rabbit hole, guys. Okay? If you guys have been watching me long enough, you know when I say a rabbit hole, that means it's going to get deep. So 329 in the Hebrew calendar, or in the Hebrew Hebrew Strong's Concordance, and I look at everything through the Strong Concordance. There's one in particular God has me use, and so it says to pierce. The first thing that came to mind was when that soldier pierced Jesus' side to prove that he was no longer alive. And so then he brought me to the Greek meaning. And it says to stir up, to rekindle, to fan into a flame. And I was like, rekindle. That sounds a lot like God stirring up feelings and emotions and thoughts and things like that. And so I hadn't looked at my memories from Facebook. And he goes, pull up your memories, see what's on there. And so there was several songs. Now, when I saw these songs back in the day, they had meaning to me, but I didn't really sit down and listen to them. Not like that. It was, I was like, oh yeah, I love this song, I love that song, And for those of you who've been watching me, God has never led me to share lyrical music that he's speaking to me through. Okay, so this is something new. I've not done this before. No eyes have seen and no ear has heard. So he had me, so the first person that was on my memory was Avril Lavigne. Now, Avril Lavigne is very a much younger young lady than me. I think I was in my 30s and she was a teenager when she came out on, like, you know, 18, 19, somewhere around there. Maybe even younger. And there's 3 songs that I had posted. And one of them being, I wrote it down as God Don't Let Me Down, but it's the name of the song is Head Above Water. Now, the other song was I'm With You, and the third song was When You're Gone. And then he brought me to Dina Carter. How Do I Get There? And then Celine Dion, It's All Coming Back to Me Now. And so I wrote these songs down. And I said, okay, Father, you're speaking. And so, like he normally does, he'll have me go and Now, he gave me these words before I went to YouTube because he said, oh, there's some things I want you to see on YouTube. And lo and behold, Sunray, talking about prepare in the now. And that just dropped a whole lot of stuff. And he goes, okay, I had you write a daily routine. Today, I had you wake up. And I said, okay, what would your routine be if you were living with your husband? And I'm like, well, I'd be getting up a little bit earlier than this because I would want to ensure that he has a good breakfast, that he is, but neither one of us eats breakfast. So that would be, the routine will change because the activities will change, but we both have talked about this, and he's like, I don't eat breakfast until, I wake up. And I'm like, that's funny because I don't eat breakfast until I wake, like, not even until I wake up. It's, sometimes I don't eat breakfast. Sometimes I just eat lunch. Sometimes I'll eat breakfast for lunch. Sometimes I'll just eat lunch, or I'll skip breakfast and lunch and I'll just eat dinner. Like, that's been the way I've been since I can remember. And so so this is going to be, and I did say that where did I say that? That I need to create a routine of taking care of my family. And that is one thing I told him when we were getting to know each other as friends, is that I am a creature of habit. And I said, I like setting up a routine. I like having an order to my day. So does he. And so, like I said, I would say things and then he'd be like, interesting. But he wouldn't say anything. Or he'd agree. He's like, yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about. And I understood it to mean that he recognizes the behavior because he has that same behavior too. And so then God says, how am I going to fit into your day? And I said, well, Father, I have coffee that I need to have. And I said, I can sit down and I can read my Bible, and I can share your word, or I can, study with you, and you can lead me that way. And he goes, okay. So I made my coffee and I sat down, and he said, but before I sat down, before I made my coffee, he said, clean the space where you're going to have your study time. And I did. I cleaned my table, because now it's uncluttered, so I can easily wipe it down and get everything situated. I also wiped down the 2 tables that are next to my bed. And I got my coffee ready, and I sat down, and I was like, okay, let's begin. And so this is how God shows you how it's going to be in the next. It's not going to look exactly like this because my space is going to be different. I might have a room that I call my office or that I share with my husband where we sit down together and we read the Bible, or maybe it's just a space in the living room. I don't know. The space is going to be dependent on what God wants for us. And so, one thing I do when I get home, I don't like being in my street clothes. I like changing into my home clothes. Right now, that looks like me getting into my pajamas, which my pajamas are a pair of shorts and a tank top. Okay? So if you see me in tank tops and shorts, it's because I'm in my pajamas. And he's the same way. And so, and he doesn't have to tell me this. I know because I know. Because God is like, he's going to match you. It's not going to be that different. Do we think exactly the same? No. But yes. So part of my routine is going to be, every morning after he goes off to work, I will clean the house. I will take care of my dog. I'll take him for walks. I'll come home. I'll sit with God. We'll have our time to hear the instructions, hear the teachings that he has for me, because I never stop learning. We never stop learning, no matter how long of a path we have. And so I listened to Sunray for like the first 10 minutes, and immediately the first scripture she had was Ephesians 5. And God had me start at 22, verse 22, where she was starting at verse 25. God said, no, I want you to go back. So we're going to go to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22. And the title of the passage, Instruction for Marriage. Now, this is after I was obedient with, taking care of all of the morning things, getting my coffee ready, taking care of my room, making my bed. I make my bed every single day. That's without fail. I don't leave a messy bed. I've been that way since before I got divorced. And even when I was single in my younger years, I was that same way. My bed was always made. And this is how God says, okay, now you're ready for your day. Now I know you're ready to receive. Now I know you've done the work without me having to tell you, without me having to remind you. So let me give you more. Those who can be trusted with the little will receive more. Okay? So even though I'm going to be busy doing, my chores, and this is without having kids yet. So this is me building on my foundation of being a wife, a mother, a child of God, and all the other things that I'm going to be responsible for. Okay? So